Okay, time for another movie review, and I'm going to review the epic 1962 movie Lawrence of Arabia. Um, let's get into it. Released in 1962, directed by David Lean, a screenplay by Robert Bolt and Michael Wilson, based on the book Seven Pillars of Wisdoms by one T.E. Lawrence, and it's produced by Sam Spiegel. Okay, let's get into the cast members. In the lead role, Peter O'Toole as T.E. Lawrence. Alec Guinness plays Prince Faisal. Anthony McQuinn is Adu Abu Tayyeh. Jack Hawkins plays General Allenby. Omar Charif is Sheriff Ali Ibn El Karish. Jose Ferrer is the Turkish Bey. And Anthony Quayle is Colonel Harry Brighton. Claude Raids, Mr. Dryden, and then Arthur Kennedy is Jackson Bentley. There are obviously far more characters in this movie, but I won't go through them all, but they will be on the slide, those famous slides which bring my reviews to life. Now, this movie absolutely smashed it at the box office and at the awards ceremonies. At the 1963 Academy Awards, and let's go through. It won for Best Picture, Best Director, for Best and for Best Actor nominations for Peter O'Toole. Also a nomination for Omar Charif in the supporting role, and the Best Screenplay, and of course art direction. And going down the list, cinematography, film editing, music score, and finally sound. And equally successful at the Golden Globes, although I'm not going through that. And it was very successful at the BAFTAs, of course. And so that's the details of Lawrence of Arabia. My notes, I'm going to go through my review. Blockbuster in every sense of the word, this movie. An epic and the most successful movie of 1962. Taking all those major awards, and it launched a new star onto the world stage, one Peter O'Toole. In the movie, he's nicknamed Orange by the Arabs, his hair colour, of course. It's a dramatised real story of the exploits of T.E. Lawrence after he's posted to the Middle East at the time of World War I. The British Army were at war with the Turkish Empire in Arabia. Its script evolved from the writings of T.E. Lawrence's book, and so it can be relied upon really as a fairly accurate account through the eyes of Lawrence. He's a lieutenant, and he's assigned to be an observer in the area where an Arabian prince, played by Guinness, is fighting the Turks. This is a 3-hour plus movie, and it follows the exploits of Lawrence as he becomes involved in the conflict, and he quickly sees how caring the people are and how great the challenge is for these desert-dwelling people. And he ends up rallying the various Arab groups together to fight the common enemy, the Turks, something that the British had failed to do, and this helped the British turn the tide in that area in World War I. What impressed me was the musical score throughout this movie that creates an imposing mood as you watch the location, the cinematography, the terrain of the imposingly idyllic, somehow live. Terrific viewing it certainly is. Lawrence relocated to Arabia by senior army officers who are tiring and weary of his constant challenges of army regulations and procedures, his balmy, unpredictable behaviour, and his general provocative personality is the problem. It's World War I, the numerous political references to British imperialism, and it's got a desire really to colonise the area, Britain that is, and broaden its power whilst fighting the Turkish Empire. Throughout the movie, there are a number of racist references heard towards the Arab tribes and other ethnic groups. It's described by British officers. They describe these as wogs, and it's loosely thrown around in the mess holes. Upon arrival, though, Lawrence quickly convinces his superiors of the value in crossing the desert. A guide is given to him, and they set off to meet Prince Faisal, played by Guinness. En route, Lawrence manages to get the warring factions controlled by Charif Ali, played by Charif, and Abu Dai, played by Quinn, to see eye to eye, and they to join him as a united force against the rampaging and occupying Turks. The Turks are holding the strategic port of Aqaba on the Red Sea, and we witness the momentous journey against all the odds, the endurance, the limited water, and only 50 men provided for Lawrence. We see the panoramic views of the desert landscape, and also the hazardous decisions by Lawrence to return to search for a friend against strong advice from Ali. The film acts as a history lesson, really, but also an insight into the mentality of those who live and survive in the hostile climate. A waterhole is seen a bit like a house, really, and early on Ali tells Lawrence that drinking from his well is akin to stealing, which justifies why he shot and killed Lawrence's guide. Within the film, the strong male characters are all determined, bloody-minded and uncompromising, and they have their own goals, but there are certain similarities, and they're all linked to power and preserving their macho image. We witness Lawrence's negotiation skills as he masters and manipulates them to maintain the peace. Lawrence's lack of technical war skills show up quickly, but his unpredictable determination enables tasks deemed impossible to be achieved because of how they are viewed as pivotal to trust his integrity, honesty and commitment to get his hands dirty, unlike British officers before him who seem to avoid this. So this is a catalyst really for how he is viewed by these leaders. Ian and Freddie Young, the cinematographer, constantly keep you, the viewer, locked into the environment. The beauty of the beaches, the shot from above Aqaba, the view of the shimmering sand, the intensity of the heat, and of course the vision of the Red Sea through the port of Aqaba. There are no female actors in this film. It's a deliberate plan by Lean, so he's able to accentuate the macho character of the lead actors. Although it is an epic that Hollywood is renowned for, and that helped its success. Lawrence of Arabia does have a very English feel about it, though, less glamorous than some Hollywood blockbusters. There are a few scenes of gore, but combat is kept to a minimum, and the characters make the movie a gem, really. And O'Toole is high above them all, conducting this script using all manner of manageable skills to get the results from these bandit type rebels. What motivates the leaders? Well, particularly Quinn, who's outstanding. He's obsessed with wealth, gold particularly, or, as we see much later in the film, a shining appreciation of white stallions that he steals. He needs souvenirs and trophies as a reward for his endeavours. Lean does show us the reality of the terrain quite vividly, and one of O'Toole's boys is lost to quicksand, and the man he rescued in the desert is sacrificed by Lawrence to prevent an uprising between the two tribes following a killing. Lawrence very much in a bandit role, joining his Arab friends in dynamiting train and pillaging it, and an old-fashioned shootout with a German officer when Lawrence goes into the epic rage of slaughter for slaughter's sake, just to show us all how he's become an Arab through and through. Torture's also seen, and the politics with Lawrence as the agitator getting to Damascus before the British Army and setting up an Arab council, which has, within hours, become completely dysfunctional. That's because the tribal factions have yet to learn any diplomacy in resolving issues such as water supply, electricity and transport services. Chaos is greeted with hilarity by Lawrence, and it could be seen as a preview to the current problems in the Middle East, both in Palestine and in Syria. As the final curtain comes down, we are, I think, meant to conclude that Lawrence's motive in making his impact on the war in the Arabias was more to do with rejecting conventional British society, the empire, the superiority complex that festered in their military, and his desire to get out in the wilderness and the theatrical nature of Arab life. So at the end, we are content, or he is content rather, for the colonels, the advisories from France and Britain to fight over the scraps, knowing that he's left his mark on Arab society. This was the second time that I saw this movie, a gap of perhaps more than 30 years, it has to be said, and I really did appreciate it this time far more, possibly because of my age, but possibly because of my greater political awareness. But all in all, this is a tremendous piece of work. You must watch it on a big screen, however. I watched it on a small laptop computer. Big mistake, really. You can't really capture the sheer size of the terrain. And at 3 hours plus, a huge screen would have really been very captivating. But it is a history lesson and a fascinating insight into the character of T.H. Lawrence, a true character that made a significant difference in that area. So try and get to watch it. It's the admirable Lawrence of Arabia, released in 1962 and directed by David Lean.